Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and we all know that CNN's panelists, for the most part, don't really have a couple of brain cells to share amongst each other, and this panel mostly proves it until Scott Jennings has to speak truth to power again, but it's a Democrat who ultimately throws down the hammer because this panel does still refuses to understand what happened in the Daniel Perry and Jordan Neely trial. Let's dive in.
He was unarmed.
Solomon,
there was no way he was going to kill anybody.
Who said he clearly appeared to be mentally ill. That's what the jurors heard. They heard the witnesses on the subway
But it doesn't
car.
give you a free pass to kill because you see someone that's mentally
hold on.
ill.
This side of the
That's right.
table, I want to bring in the politics of this because when I hear lawmakers hailing Penny as a hero, as a good Samaritan, really being promoted, can you help me understand the thinking? We started at the top of the show talking about the killer of the United Healthcare CEO being hailed in similar terms.
Yeah, let me just help you understand. If you're on the American left tonight, here's my chart. The good guys today, Daniel Penny. The bad guys, Luigi Mangione. It seems to me,
How do you?
Everybody
what's
on the
the
left-
chart for victims?
I'm just telling you what I see out in the world.
I know.
today.
I
What
just want you
see
to
out in
finish
world
the
today.
chart.
What
So
I, what I,
the victim, which
what's my
victim
chart?
is good
You
and
can make
which
your own
victim
chart.
is bad.
What I'm telling you is
That's not on the second page?
People on the left. People on the left
Scott,
can't seem to tell the difference
I'm not
between the
actually
good guys
asking
and
you
the
about
bad guys.
people on the left.
Well,
I'm
that's-
asking you
it's
whether
crazy.
you consider this person.
We had people praising
I want
Luigi
to know
and
whether
attacking
you
Penny.
think that,
one is good,
as
one is not.
Congressman Crane does, that Daniel Penny should get the Congressional Gold Medal to recognize his heroism. I'm not asking you about anyone else.
I think he ought to get medal. I think they ought to build a statue to this guy in New York City.
I think
Oh,
that race,
Scott, you
I think
lost
that,
your mind.
and I'm going to say it. I'm going to say the dreaded R word. Race plays a role in this, right? And so we see
Does
it.
it?
Yes, absolutely, because statistics
Wasn't there a similar case in New York City at the same
statistics
time this
say
one was going on?
that when people kill people who are white, they tend to get harsher sentences,
they?
especially if they're people of color.
What about the Jordan Williams case?
That
What
is
about
what
the Jordan
happens in
Williams
our
case?
criminal
Stop.
justice system.
First of all,
no, I'm
like,
not going to stop because race
I
absolutely
didn't ask you to
plays a
stop.
role
I said,
in this.
what
Some
about
of the
the
witness-
Jordan Williams case here in New York? Same situation. African American gets on a subway, ends up killing a guy. Grand jury tosses it out at the exact same time as the Penny case.
What about
But
Bernard
that's
Getz?
different. That's different because he used the same weapon that the alleged victim had. So he was using his own weapon. He was met with deadly physical force. Jordan Neely, all he had in his pocket was a muffin.
All right, listen,
Yeah,
guys.
well, he
First
was
of all,
threatening.
this is not a left-right issue. I'm on the left, and I actually think this was the right decision. Because the reason I think this is the right decision is because that's what the jury decided. And juries tend to get this stuff right. And that's what we have to believe in. There were multiple witnesses that were people of color. There were multiple people on the jury that were people
More
of color.
people on the jury.
I think it's
There was
not
one black
really
person on
okay
the
to
jury.
call this a race issue. One of the guys who helped hold him down was a black man. He, testified too on his behalf. Like, this is not a race issue.
So
The jury who spent days and days and days and days listening to detailed facts came to this conclusion.
Well-
Do I think he's a hero? No. Do I think he was
Why
a good
not?
Samaritan trying to protect people? Yeah.
Thank you, Miss Hillary. By the way, that's Hillary Rosen. She's apparently a Democrat strategist. Thank you. That was a level-headed, honest discussion about the issues because this woman fully understands that when you are mentally ill, when you're having an episode, and you are in a public place, particularly on the subway, you are a threat to your surroundings and, of course, to yourself. It doesn't matter if you have a muffin or a crowbar on you. It doesn't matter if you have a muffler on your weapon. It doesn't matter if you have a silencer or a knife. You are a danger regardless. And so Jordan Neely I am going to dyslexically get those names backwards for a while. Daniel Penny used his Marine training to ultimately go, no, I am going to hold you down. I'm going to put you in a simple chokehold that usually puts a person to sleep, okay? It denies the brain oxygen just enough for the brain to go, okay, time to tap out here. That's what's supposed to happen. However, after Daniel Perry had gotten off the suspect, after some of the other people on the subway had left him and the first responders, the policemen had got there, Jordan Neely was still alive. So ultimately, this dude had multiple other issues, including sickle cell anemia, something which the public doesn't fully understand because that is carried in African genes and not in European genes. Unless, of course, you're the royal family of half of Europe. So if you know that, you know. So this should be a cut and dry case, right? Even the Democrats should be able to understand this problem, right? Well, notice that there are two other people at this panel. One of them is Solomon Jones. We've covered him before. He's a race baiter. He is a grifter. The only way he is relevant is because he got kicked out of his district because there were too many Republicans once it got redistricted, and he lost big time in the primary even. They didn't like him because, again, he is a race baiter, and even the Democrats in that part of New York City were not having it at all. Particularly when you get a little too close to certain terrorist supporters that should be saying flee Palestine, but that's another topic for another day. So, there was this panel of Solomon Jones, and there was another, I didn't quite catch her name, but they were both out there trying to trump up, oh, this was white on black violence, oh, this is about systemic racism, oh, this is another George Floyd. When if you remember anything about George Floyd, he was on his third strike rule. If he was going to be apprehended by the police, he was going to go to jail for a long time because he had more drugs on him, and so he ingested those drugs in order to, in some vain, stupid attempt to evade justice, and he has so much fentanyl in his system that it ended his life. And Democrats tried to cover this up by changing the coroner's report. They had one coroner's report, they gave him another one a few weeks later, and then fudged the details. So remember, when it comes to issues where a black man has an episode where he needs to be constrained in a public place, these people want to drum up, this is America at its racist zenith. Give me a break. Give me an absolute break. I live in North Georgia. All right, I'm back home for a little while. Back home in my hometown. Until the early 90s, black folks were afraid of coming in certain neighborhoods. My neighborhood was one of those. I got to play with their kids. I've been invited to the barbecue. And I can say I got to watch what used to be one of the last suburban holdouts of certain, let's say, dunce cap wearing organizations. I got to see that die out before my very eyes. I have seen racism ultimately just die out because people are actually getting to know others. They're working alongside each other in the warehouses. And ultimately, the average person just wants this crap to end. That's what the average person wants. Instead, you have these grifters that it does not matter what the facts are. And ultimately, this is something I think I'll end with. There's dog whistles here in this video. And I'm used to hearing the left complain about right-wing dog whistles. They talked about Nixon dog whistling. No, he never did. They talked about Ronald Reagan dog whistling. No, he was merely making a correct observation. They talked about it for pretty much every single Republican in every single presidential election, including the last one. It happens every single time. And what I heard here was a dog whistle. At the very beginning of this clip, you heard Solomon Jones talking about, oh, he was being loud while black. No. He was having a mental episode threatening the very people in a public place. That's not being loud while black, okay? And by the way, that's kind of a tell, because if that is seen as unacceptable behavior and you think the average black person can, identify with that, that is not a glowing way to talk about your own race and your own community, of which you are grifting off of, and then, by definition, you are insulting their intelligence. I'd say shame on Solomon Jones, but I don't think he knows the name of the word. I don't think he understands what it means. That's because Democrats have, for the most part, lost their sense of shame, with, I think, one clear exception, and that is Miss Hillary Rosen, who does a fantastic job of saying what needs to be said. That Daniel Penny did something that was heroic, at least in a small way. It's not guaranteed that he protected a lot of people. You don't know what a mentally insane person is going to do. but you do know that that person could be a danger to himself, and that person was threatening everyone in the subway car. And so, Jordan Neely, who was having this episode, was restrained, and because of a major issue that he had not had diagnosed, he lost his life because he was being restrained from hurting more people. Yeah, that's a good Samaritan at the very minimum. Now, Scott Jennings goes a little bit farther, and I do think New York owes him a major apology, and at least there's one Democrat out there who's willing to stand up for the truth, and that's Miss Hillary Rosen, who is a Democrat strategist, and even on CNN, she's willing to speak truth to power. Thank you, ma'am. We all appreciate it. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one, and until then, y'all have a good one.